Hi friends, welcome to my channel. Today I've got 10 high-end Christmas dollar home decor crafts where they are all made out of wood decor and signs from the Dollar Tree. Now let's get crafting. For this craft we're going to be using these long dowel sticks from the Dollar Tree, 2 stars and 2 wood plaques. Now you don't have to do 2 of these, but I loved how they looked where one was taller than the other, so that's why I made 2. To get started we're going to cut the twine out, patch those holes that were originally in the plaque and the stars, and then we're going to drill a hole in the center of the plaque and a hole at the bottom of the star. And you're going to want to make sure that the point is facing down. You can see that I lifted it up so I didn't drill through my desk because I do use my drill in my craft room. Once you've got those all drilled, and if you don't have a drill bit that's big enough, I don't either, I just drill around a little bit in a circle until I get the size that I need for the dowel. I like to use a wood glue and a hot glue combined for that long-term, short-term hold while it's drying. I just don't trust hot glue by itself forever, and I always like to make sure I add in some wood glue. Once that's all dry, go ahead and paint your base and your sticks or your dowels, whichever you want to call it. And keep in mind that you're going to want one dowel to be shorter than the other, so I did cut that down a little bit. I forgot to show that, but you're going to see at the end that one is taller than the other. Now you're going to decide what color you want your star to be painted. I'm going with red and white this year in my home, so I'm painting my star red. And then once everything was all painted and dried, I went ahead and took some sandpaper and just roughed up my star to give it that farmhouse distress look. I don't get too crazy with this part because I just like a little bit of distressing. I know it's not for everyone. Now for this next part, you're going to notice that the base has some text paper on it. Friends, I recorded it and for whatever reason it was out of focus. I'm so sorry, but how I did it was I took a piece of text paper from a book, I cut it down to size. I didn't make it perfectly shaped to that size, but I just cut like a nice piece of it, and then I cut a slit, shaked it and shimmied it around the little dowel, and then I just glued it all down. And once it was glued down in place, I took some sandpaper and sanded the edges until I got that shape that was perfectly the shape of the base, and then just glued it all into place. So here you're seeing me add on the moss on top of it because I just really love how this looks together with the text paper on it. You don't have to do the text paper or even the grass, but I just think it looks so cute all together. Very farmhouse, very chic. I don't know. And then now what I'm going to be doing is I'm taking these greenery twist Christmas tree, there's a name for them too. Friends, I'm so sorry. I'm the worst at names here on my channel. But I'm going to take it and give it a haircut because last year I realized when I was working with this and trying to make a tiny wreath that they were just too bushy. So I give it a little haircut, twist it into a wreath, add a cute bow. I'm going to link my bow video down below if you're interested, and then add some berries, and then they're ready to be displayed. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, I wanted to say a real quick welcome, and to all of my returning subscribers, thank you so much for stopping by again and watching this video. It means so much to me each time you come back, and I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you. For this DIY, we're going to be using 2 oval plaques, 1 round wood plaque, and then these 2 different size craft sticks or dowels, either one you want to call it. We're going to start by taking out the twine that was on the 3 of these plaques, and we're going to do a hole right into that plaque. Now I did not go all the way down through because I wanted it to be able to hold this stick. So we're going to go ahead and put that stick on, as well as 2 other shorter sticks on this oval sign, glue that on. I also added in some wood glue, and I'm making sure that it's straight because you don't want this to be crooked, so make sure you check it before the glue really dries. And then I'm coming back in with some more hot glue and some wood glue, and I'm going to bring on that other piece. Now this is turning into the coolest farmhouse Christmas decor. Now once that putty was filled into the holes and it dried, I went ahead and sanded it to smooth it out, and now I'm taking another one of these dowels and I'm cutting it down to size so that I can use a star at the top and help support the side so it doesn't break over time. I wanted to make sure it's nice and flat up there at the top so it can support the points of the star. So I added on some more hot glue, put on a larger and a smaller star so it has a nice layered look. And at this point we can now go ahead and start to stain our wood. Now this project, I've got to tell you, was so much fun because I was kind of creating it and coming along as I was going, making these decisions of what would be best. And so here I am, I'm taking a little bit of brown paint, black paint, and some water, and I'm using it as a stain. It's a really affordable way if you don't want to go out and work with stain, which can be even more messy. This is almost like working with watercolors, and it cleans up really easy. So once I have that all painted, I left that oval in the middle because we're going to be doing something really special there in just a few minutes. I'm going to take some of this buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just hide where these ovals are coming together because we don't want to see down inside there. So this really finishes the sides really nicely. When you get to the bottom of the oval, just go ahead and take your scissors and snip it off because you are going to run into the dowel that's holding up the oval sign. Then you're going to come around on the other side and you're going to go as close up to that wooden dowel you can get and just clean it up. And then as well, we're going to come around the bottom of the base. Now once everything is dry, we're going to go ahead and come back in with some white paint. And I did 2 coats of this so it was really crisp and beautiful. And I just made sure there was that wood showing around the sides. I also painted the star and the dowel that's holding everything together and up. So I came in with a smaller brush where I needed it, a bigger brush where I needed it, and I just took my time painting all the white areas that I wanted it to have. Then once I was all done with that and the paint was dry, I came back in with a really pretty grayish blue color, and I lightly dry brushed the top to look like the night sky, and then I came in with a greenish, almost like a greenish brown color, and then I did the grass with a dry brush, and then you saw that I did the sticks for the manger and the little bed for baby Jesus. And now I'm just coming in with some hay, and I used some white to create his head and his little swaddling, and I'm just coming in with some lighter brown and just finishing off the hay. And you also saw that I used the fine tip brush to circle around the head and the body of baby Jesus. Then I used my handwriting and I just wrote on Merry Christmas in pencil, and then I came back in with my black paint and my small brush and I hand painted the rest of that. Now I wanted to sparkle up that star just a little bit, so I added some hot glue in between the stars, and I'm just adding in this really chunky, thick, vintage looking glitter. I thought this looked so pretty. Then at the bottom I added a bow and some of the Spanish moss, and it's ready to be displayed. For this DIY, we are going to be actually only using 3 of these long signs from the Dollar Tree and one of these cute holiday signs that you can also pick up at the Dollar Tree. Now these signs are about 18 inches long, so I'm going to just cut that in half, and I'm going to find that exact half point, and I'm going to use a 45-degree angle cut, standing it up on its side. So it's not flat, but it's up on its side. If that makes sense? And you can see here that I've got these 2 pieces that are the same size, and now I'm going to figure out the base. So I'm going to take this and just mark it off, and I don't have the exact measurement for this, but it just depends on how wide you want to make this, because today, friends, we are making a really sweet nativity scene. Now for the rooftop, we're going to use 1 more of these, so this is why I was saying we need 3 of them, and we're going to just create a cut line for where they're going to miter together at the top. So we're going to need a 45-degree angle for that, and then we need it just to be flat on the ends, not an angled cut. So you can see I have the 2 green ones that are a little bit shorter for the roof, the black ones are a little bit longer for the walls, and then the blue one is for the base. Now I laid it all out, tried to hold them all in place so I can trace around the sign, because we're going to cut that down so this could be the back of it and make it really sturdy. Now I love this because if you score these boards, these signs, if you score them a couple times, they pop right off where you want them to be cut, and then you just go over it with a pair of old scissors and you cut off the rest so you have a nice clean line. So you can see here that I'm just going over this side, I scored it, I pulled it back, and then it just pops right off. And then you can use your scissors to just clean up the line if there's anything extra that needs to be cleaned up. Now we can start assembling our darling nativity. So I'm going to go ahead and put down the walls first. I'm making sure that they come all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to just take my staple gun and staple that in place. And all of my tools, if you're interested in any of my tools, I'm going to have them linked down below so you can check them all out. So I'm just going to do a couple staples just to get it started to hold them in place, and I'm going to come back and really reinforce the back. I love whenever the projects are really well built versus you drop it and it's going to break. So now at the top, I went ahead and mitered the corners together with some wood glue and some hot glue, and now I'm coming in and quickly adding on the glue to the sides of the walls and also to the back side of the roof, and I'm just gluing that all down into place to making sure everything's nice and secure. And then I'm coming back in with my staple gun and just going crazy on it. Now here's this next part. Obviously I'm not going into my desk. I'm doing a countersink hole. I'm just going around enough to make sure that the screw head will be able to sink down in there, because you don't want that to scratch your table. And once I had that done, I went ahead and added some glue to the bottom of the walls, lined up those countersink holes, and then I took my drill and drilled all the way through it, so that way when I go to put a screw in, it'll go in really easy. So once I've pre-drilled that hole, I switched out my bit and I went ahead and added in the screw and drilled it all into place. This is going to be that final thing that is going to make this thing, you could drop it a million times. Well, I wouldn't drop it off of like a big building. Then it would probably break. But you could drop this a bunch and not have to worry about it breaking or having any issues, because everything has been stapled together and screwed down at the bottom. It's built really well if you follow these steps. Now I'm going to take some white paint. I think I went over with about 4 coats of white paint. I really wanted to make sure the white was really beautiful and just glowing. Now I'm going to take some of these peg people. I don't know if you've ever seen these, but this is like a real trendy thing to do over on Pinterest. And I love these little peg people. I've loved them for years. I thought it would be so sweet to make a Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus out of these peg people. So first I started by painting on their faces, and then I went in with the color for their clothes. So Mary, I went with a really pretty blue color, a very light teal, almost like an ocean blue. And then while I was letting that dry over to the side, and a heat gun works so great for that too. Now I'm going to use some brown and I'm going to put on Joseph's beard, and I'm just kind of tapping it around and making a hairline. And while that's drying, I switched to black, and I'm now going to put on Mary's hair, and I kind of made a little swoop in the front so you could tell that she, you know, is Mary and has pretty hair. And now I'm taking a fine tip brush and I'm going to make some scallops all the way down her. And I'm going to come back in with this lighter blue color so that you can really see the difference between the two blues. This is going to be her pretty veil that she has on her, or her shawl. I don't know exactly. I think it's like a veil, maybe a shawl. Leave a comment down below. Educate me if I'm saying it wrong. I'm not offended if you help your friend Heidi out. And then for baby Jesus, I went ahead and used the same color that I used on her shawl, on her covering. I don't know. Now we're going to go over to Joseph, and I went ahead and added green to a really pretty green. I really love this color. And I went all the way up to his neckline, just twisting around. And the fun thing about these is you really could just make them look however you want them to look. You can customize them, you can change their hair color. It's so fun doing this project. I really enjoyed making these, and I just think they're so sweet. Wait until you see them all together with the Nativity, and it's so fun how this project turned out. Now for Mary, I wanted to add a little bit more detail, so I took the back of my brush and I'm just making tiny little dots all over to give her some design and to, you know, just make her look more feminine. And then on the bottom of Joseph, I went around with some white paint, creating some little dots all the way around him. Now when they were drying, I went ahead and switched back over to the house because the white paint was done drying, and I'm just going to take some ticking cloth and I'm going to just go ahead and add that to the back of the house to clean it up, because that's where the glittery sign was on the back side. Now we're going to take a wooden star. I have a pack of these that I got from, I think it was Hobby Lobby with a 40% off coupon, or they might have been on sale. And I'm just going to paint that yellow, and I'm going to put that right up at the top of the house, and it's going to clean up that line where we mitered those pieces together, and it looks really finished and polished at this point. I was so excited when I came up with this idea. Now, I have seen these signs sitting around in my craft room for quite some time. They were for the summertime, and I decided I wanted to take them and turn them into really cute decor wrapped present boxes that I can put underneath my Christmas tree. You know how whenever we're getting ready for Christmas to come, we don't really have presents underneath the tree yet, and it looks a little bare. So these are really cute to put underneath your tree, or you can also put them on your front porch. To make them, it's really easy. You're going to use some dowel sticks, and you're going to need 5 of these pieces in the same size. And you can see as I'm bringing the corners together, I just keep adding the dowel sticks in there with a lot of hot glue. You're going to want to use a lot of hot glue because it's going to continue to reinforce it. And then as you keep adding on a new side, add another dowel stick until you get all 4 sides built. Then you're going to take your 5th piece and you're going to put your ones that you've combined together on top, and you're going to use a marker to draw a line because we're going to cut this down to size. These are really easy to snap and get down to the size that you want. So you're just going to take your craft knife and you're going to score a couple times on the same spot, making sure that you got a nice straight line where you marked it with your pen. And then this is my favorite part, you just flip it over and it snaps so easily. Then to clean up the edge, you're just going to take a pair of old scissors and you're going to trim off that extra piece, and then add some glue to the top, and then just put that right on there. Once that is on and nice and secure, don't forget to go inside and add in those extra dowels. Now you're gonna see me switch over to the smaller box because I just could not get the bigger box on film because I didn't have enough space where I was filming. So I switched to the smaller box that's more of a square shape. And what I did was I took some fabric that I liked and I'm just simply pulling it up all around. I laid the fabric down first, put the box in, and then I'm coming up as tight as I can on all 4 sides. And then when I get to getting that all nice and glued on the inside, I'm pulling it over on the sides and doing like a little tuck and a fold so it looks like when you're wrapping a present. Then I'm going to take some of this ribbon that I found last year for clearance after Christmas time from, I think it was Joann's. Oh, they always have the best ribbon on clearance after Christmas. I went ahead and picked that up, and I'm just going to use that to wrap around the box so it makes it look like a really beautiful ribbon. Cut off a couple extra pieces, and then I added a bow. So I'm going to link that bow video down below if you want to see how I make my bows. I don't make bows traditionally how most people do because this is actually how a lot of the stores make them. I learned this years ago when I used to work at a party supply store. It was hands down my favorite job I ever had as a teenager, blowing up balloons, wrapping presents. And all you have to do now is add in a couple of picks and you are good to go. For this DIY, I'm going to be using this staircase spindle that I also picked up from Habitat for Humanity, as well as some Dollar Tree products. You all know I love my Dollar Tree DIYs, and so I'm going to be using this staircase spindle to make the most beautiful farmhouse angel that I know you're all going to get so excited when you see how I create the wings, because it is really something. All right, we're going to take these 2 signs and we're going to lay them right next to each other with the spindle right in the middle, and we're going to start just tracing out these wings. Now I love using these signs because you can cut them and shape them to whatever you might need for your project. It does take a little bit of elbow grease, but you know what? Once you get the shape you want, you can do some cool things. things. So here I am at this point. I'm taking my craft knife and I'm making sure I'm cutting on my mat. Don't ever cut just directly on your table, obviously, but I'm just going to say just in case you're a new crafter. And I'm just scoring all along these, and I'm cutting them and snapping them as I go. And if there's any rough edges, I'm going to be snipping it with my scissors or my craft knife in any tough areas, and then sanding it to get the shape that we need. Once I've got 2 of those done, I put them to the side, and we're going to start working on the body of the angel. So we're going to take this sign from this little wood plaque, actually, from the Dollar Tree. I filled in the holes, and then I'm doing a countersink hole right here. My drill bit is not big enough. You all know, if you've been watching for a while, I need to get bigger drill bits. But I'm going in with a smaller drill at this point, and I'm going to just pre-drill some holes to make sure I don't splinter or crack anything, because this stairway spindle is pretty old and I don't want to have any issues with it. So I went ahead and started my screw, got everything all lined up, and I'm putting on some wood glue and some hot glue for that short-term, long-term hole that you all know I love so much. And now I'm going back in, and I started to screw it in. And now I'm just twisting to get it in place, and then I'll go back in one more time to really sink in that screw, and it should be nice and flat at the bottom. Now this is the cool part where the wings start to happen. I'm so excited about this part. I went ahead and took my staple gun, and I'm just going to staple all up the spine of this angel. And I'm going to do it on both sides, and it is so secure on here, friends. Now this is where it really starts to come to life. I'm going to take the smallest popsicle stick that there is, and then we're going to just keep cutting them down. We want to have the rounded edges. This is the bottom of the wing, and then we're going to just keep adding on more pieces. As we add on more and more and more, we keep shifting our way up, and just have fun with it. Move things around. Make sure that you're trying to cover up any gaps that would show that original sign. Once I got that part down, I moved up to the tongue depressor stick size, did a few rows of that, made sure I was curving along the edge, and then I moved on to these really big sticks that I picked up from Walmart. And I love these because they cover even more surface, and this is really where it's going to start to take the shape of that wing. When you get to the top, just keep using your pencil to create the shape that you need, cut things out, and then just continue to layer until you get the desired look that you want on the wing. I really had a lot of fun creating this part and just shaping everything to get the look that I was going for, and just kept working with it until the entire wing was completely covered. And make sure you go all the way into the groove between the stair spindle and the wing to make sure it's all nice and covered in there. Now once that was all done, I went ahead and moved on to the head. I'm just drilling out a hole, adding in one of these sticks, one of the craft sticks from the Dollar Tree, and then this ornament. When I saw this, I knew that this could be a head for an angel, so I snagged it. And how cool is it that it has the exact same scalloped texture as the wings? I thought that this was meant to be together. I was so thrilled over this. So once I added a little hot glue, I went ahead and twisted it onto the body of the angel. And now I wanted to create some depth and some texture to this angel and her wings. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with a pretty gray color, and I'm just going to work into all of those little crevices, making sure everything is covered in the gray color, and making sure that I just keep tapping as I go. This is, I think, probably where it goes from just being a craft to a high-end looking item that you might see in an actual boutique. And then I made sure I flipped it over, got all the sides, got the back, and I'm going to also paint the bottom base this color, but I'm going to come back in with some white paint and dry brush over the wings and the feathers, and I'm going to dry brush over the base as well. Make sure you have very little paint on your brush as you're doing this. This is the dry brush technique, and then just keep working with it until you get that desired look that you want. Now I wanted to be able to have my angel holding up a wreath in between her because, well, I like little tiny wreaths, and why not? So I went ahead and took some of this garland, twisted it around into a smaller wreath, and then to make it look more high-end, I'm going to take some boxwood and I'm going to add that to the wreath. But once I had everything all twisted into place, I'm now going to take this. I picked these up from Hobby Lobby on a really long vine, and I just cut it up until I get everything all used up, and then I go and pick up another one with my coupon. Now I'm gonna add some berries, and I'm just gonna really finish off this look by making sure I don't have any bald areas on it. I wanted to make sure it looks really covered and really beautiful. And then the last, add a bow to finish the look and hang it on your angel. For this DIY, we are going to be using these supplies from the Dollar Tree and then these wood pieces from Hobby Lobby that I picked up in a pack. Now I'm going to go ahead and make a marking so that I can get 3 different sizes, large, medium, and small. And then once I had those all cut out, I went ahead and painted them over with a really dark gray color. Once everything was completely covered with one coat, that's all you're going to need, I went ahead and took my white paint and a napkin and I just dry brushed on some white paint until I got that farmhouse crackle type paint texture that I was looking for. This was a really easy step to do, so just make sure you just have fun with it and get it to your liking. Then I patched the holes and sanded them, so I went ahead and did some countersink holes. This is going to allow the drill to be able to sink that screw all the way down in there so that you don't see it when you put it on your table and it doesn't scratch your table. Once I had all of these pieces of wood mounted onto the white plaques that I'm painting, as you can see here, I went ahead and moved on to those pieces that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and I just cut down some of these craft sticks to the size I wanted, and I'm painting them yellow after gluing on those sticks to them because these are now going to become little flames and wicks. Then I drilled a hole and just sunk that right down in there with some hot glue to make sure it stays in there, and then I'm just distressing it a little bit. And I thought it would be so cute to add a bow up on top, just like I saw in my inspiration from an Etsy shop. I thought these were so cute, and I just wanted you all to see how affordable these are to make and so cute for the Christmas time to put on your table. So once you've got your bow on, just go ahead and snip off the extra twine that's on it and then hot glue it all into place. This week over on Instagram, I'm starting to transform my craft space into a Christmas workshop. Make sure to come on by to see all the things I have going on in my stories, where I'm going to be documenting all of it and all the fun things I have planned, switching out all my fall decor to Christmas. I cannot wait to share all of that stuff, so come on by to Instagram. I will link my account down below in my description box. I hope you will come by to say hello. These are the supplies we're going to be using today. 2 packs of these tongue depressor sticks, 1 pack of the regular popsicle sticks, a ribbon that's out at the Dollar Tree, this shovel, and then 1 of these foam squares. So we're going to go ahead by taking off the shovel from the dowel, and we're going to just get off that sticker. I like to sand it whenever I have a problem with it. Drill a hole and then add in a smaller dowel. This is going to create that crossbar that you see on a cute lantern out in front of someone's house. We're going to be making this cute, smaller lantern that you can decorate and have in your home for the Christmas season. So once you've got your hole pressed into your foam block, you're going to go ahead and take these thick tongue depressor sticks, and I'm going to cut them down to a size that I like. I want to have a little bit overlap at the top of it so that it can create a greenery box down inside where you don't see the foam square, and it just hides it all and looks really pretty at the end with the finishing look. But we're going to need to cut 6 of these sticks for each side. Now the trick about the 6 is that the 6th one is going to be hanging over just a little bit, so I'm going to cut that down the middle of it, and you're going to see me doing that here where I can lay down the 5, they fit perfectly, but that 6th one needs to be cut down to size a little bit to be able to fit, so it's not having a really heavy overlap on it. Then trim around the top to make sure everything's nice and straight and even. Add in some extra glue around the inside so you can make sure it's all nice and secured on there. And then you're going to do the same thing at the bottom. You're going to just add some more of the sticks down across the bottom and trim off that 6th one. Now we can leave it there, but I decided to make this look really high end. That's the goal with this project. I decided to take some of the popsicle sticks, cut off the rounded pieces, and then added them around the top and the bottom and the sides to create a really pretty casing around it. There's something about this that made this go from just being a craft project to looking more high-end, and I just love the finished look of having the sticks around the sides like this. And I just used a pencil to mark anywhere I needed to and then cut off and then put everything into place. This was a really easy project to do, and I just had some music on while I was working on this and it went by pretty quick. Now we're going to add some hot glue and some E6000 down into our foam square to make sure the dowel is really in there nice and strong. And then I really wanted to make sure that it dried, so I added some more hot glue around the top to make sure that it just encased it all in there so it would have time to really set and do a good job holding everything into place so over time it doesn't fall out. Now we're going to move on to the lantern that's going to go on top of the dowel. So I'm going to take 5 of these popsicle sticks, and you can do them whatever length that you want, but my goal was to try to make it a 5 by 5 square. So I'm going to take the 5 and then I'm going to lay on another 5, and then I'm going to cut off any extra to make it a perfect square so that it has a nice lantern squared look to it. Once I had the popsicle sticks glued one way and glued the other way, I then trimmed down another popsicle stick to be able to create a framed box going around the sides. Once I had 3 of the sides glued on, I stopped at the 4th one because you're gonna want to be able to staple that onto your dowel. I put a lot of hot glue on it and then went in with my staple gun and I just stapled down twice. If you're interested in this staple gun, I'll link that down below. I always love to use this in my craft room. If you're new here, you'll see that in other videos I use it all the time too. So once I had it all stapled on there nice and strong and it wasn't going anywhere, I added on that 4th little wall. Now what we're going to do at this point is we're going to take the popsicle sticks or the tongue depressor sticks, as long as you can get them. I just cut off right at the top rounded area so that they're nice and long, because this is going to create the walls of our lantern. I'm putting 2 in each corner just as you're seeing here, so you're going to need 8 of these. And then once you've got those, you're going to take another box. Now see, I created 2 of these, one for the base that I stapled into the dowel and then one that I created for the top. It's the exact same steps except for this one you don't staple it, so you could just go ahead and add that 4th wall, and then you're going to add some hot glue around the sides where the corners meet up, and you're going to simply slip that right on. Once you've got that on, go ahead and take some popsicle sticks, and I'm going to put the first one crossed the back side of it, going from corner to corner, because they do have a hard time kind of laying on top of each other and you want this to lay nice and flat. So the first one is under and the second one is over, and you can see here that I put it on 3 of the sides, but I left the back one open so that you can add in your lights or whatever you want to light it up. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take 4 sticks and we're going to add a whole bunch going up the top, because I decided I felt like the top of the lantern still looked a little flat and I wanted it to have some more personality. So we're going to create almost like a little pyramid at the top, and I just cut those down to where they were about 2 inches wide. And you can see here that on the very last 2, I'm going to go from corner to corner and I'm going to cut off the extra. Now remember, this is 4 sticks across, so on the 1st and the 4th one you're going to cut off the corners. And then once you've got that done, you can repeat that 4 more times, because this is going to create that little pyramid at the very top of your lantern, and it's going to make it look like it's a real actual lantern, not that you built this out of popsicle sticks and tongue depressor sticks. So once you've got 4 of them done, I went ahead and glued the sides, added some glue to the back to reinforce it, and then I just kept going around until I got the whole thing built and all glued together. And once you felt that it was nice and strong and dry and secure, you then can go ahead and add some more glue around it and then add that to the very top of your lantern. Make sure it's as centered as possible before you actually make the commitment to gluing it all the way down, because that would just be a tragedy if you glued it on a little crooked. So I put mine on and then stood it up and made sure that it was nice and straight. Now at the very top, we're going to need to seal off the top of it, so I'm going to just take some more of those sticks and I'm going to cut them down to size, and I'm just going to simply put them right here up at the top. Now 2 fit nicely, but there was still a little bit of a gap between it. So I went ahead and cut one down really thin to make sure that it was nice and perfect and fit and sealed the whole top part of my little lantern. Once you have those pieces all on and everything is nice and dry, nice and sturdy, you're then going to move on to something that's really cool. I'm going to take this shower hook ring, and you could stop here, you don't have to do this part, but I thought this was so cool to really finish the look. I took this shower curtain ring and I'm going to just drill some holes that are big enough to be able to slip the shower ring into it. Now you're going to notice that I had a little ball on top there, and that is totally cute too, but I ended up taking it off later because I liked the way that the hook looked more. And to get the drill, I just took my drill and kept moving it around until I made a drill big enough. I just really need to get a bigger drill bit, honestly. Then I took it outside and I gave it a really pretty, almost like an oatmeal color, kind of like a tannish color, spray paint job all over the whole thing. And I'm gonna go in with some brown paint and just kind of touch the little corners to make it look like it's been weathered sitting outside, because I just think this is so pretty. Again, you can skip this step if this is not for you and you don't like distressing, but I do always like a little bit of, you know, distressing to my things. Now I'm going to take these really cute berries that they come out with at Christmas time at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to add these into the bottom of my box to really just make this come to life. I feel like at this point it is just so pretty. It's one of the reasons why I went more neutral with the paint color. If you want to add more white flowers, I would recommend maybe painting your lantern red. That could be really cute. And then I added in some pine cones just to really make it look so pretty for Christmas. Now I'm going to take that ribbon that they had at the Dollar Tree in the fall time, and I'm going to just simply tie it around the back. Make sure it's all on there nice and secure, so that way it stays on long term. I always like to make my bows, if you're interested in my bow video, I'll link it down below, but I always like to make my bows first, and then I have a piece of twine that I always use to wrap around it so it looks more store made. I touched up my red berries as you saw me doing there, and then I'm going to use some of these twinkle lights that they have at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take some garland to just disguise the box because we don't want to see that. And then once it's all wrapped around nice and tight, you can turn it on and put it inside your lantern and display for Christmas. For this DIY, we are going to be using 5 of these wood blocks from the Dollar Tree, as well as a long skewer stick that we're going to be cutting down into a whole bunch of little nubby pieces. This is going to bring all of these blocks together. So we are going to drill a hole in the first one, only on one side, and then on the other 4, we're going to drill a hole on the top and the bottom. Make sure you're checking to make sure the hole that you're drilling is the right size for your little nubby pieces that we just cut, so we can bring it all together and make it really strong and sturdy. So I went ahead and added in some wood glue into those holes and then added in the pegs. We're going to call them pegs. I'm going to stop calling them nubby pieces. And then we're going to go ahead and add on some hot glue and bring them together. Now, to make this a little bit different and special, I'm going to just rotate those pieces as I'm putting them on. And then once they're all dry and in place, I'm going to go ahead and use a really pretty light gray color for this. And I'm going to make sure I go all the way around all the sides on the top and the bottom. And I don't want it to be so saturated in gray. I want to make sure that wood is still coming through with a little bit of that wood look to it. Now we're going to take an end of a floral pick piece from the Dollar Tree. I snapped that off and I'm going to glue that in at the very top because we are going to thread on a wooden bead and then as well as one of these little finial tops to make the top of this piece look really finished and really beautiful. So go ahead and add some hot glue as you're putting those pieces on to make sure everything is staying in place for you and that it won't come off over time. Once those are all glued in place, go ahead and take a pencil, or if you have a Cricut or a Silhouette, you can also cut out letters if you don't feel comfortable hand painting. I personally love hand painting just because I love the way it looks and it's really therapeutic for me, so I went ahead and sketched out my letters, and we're going to do the word peace. Now, I had a viewer say to me the other day that she's noticed that so many people are doing joy, and I wanted to do this shout out for my friend who asked me to do a peace DIY. I love the word peace. I think it's such a wonderful word to have in our home at Christmas time and all year long. I know that we all need a little more peace in our lives. So once I painted on all of my letters with my fine tip brush in white, I went ahead and moved on to the top. I took off this greenery piece from a bell, and I'm going to be using the bell for another DIY later. I tied it on with some twine, and then to finish the look, I added some hot glue to put on a cute bow, and it was ready to display. For this DIY, I want to show you all how easy it is to make a beautiful manger, and it costs absolutely nothing. This is a dollar sign from the Dollar Tree. It's leftover from the summertime. I pulled it out because it was the perfect size. Now I found the center point, and I brought up an angle on both sides to create a roof line because we are going to be creating a nativity scene. So I'm just going to snap these off after scoring them. I love these boards because they score really easy. You can use a box cutter, that works really well, but I just use my craft knife that I have in my room. And then I went ahead and just cleaned it up with a pair of scissors. Once I had that cut down to size, I'm now going to take my white paint and I'm going to give it 2 coats of white paint. Once the white paint was dry, I went ahead and moved on to Mary and Joseph. Now I'm just going to simply take some green, create this shape for the body, and then come back in with different tints of green. Just keep playing with it and adding on these different layers. Then I'm going to move on to Mary, and it's going to be the same concept. We're going to just continue to add in different depths of paint and texture. And it's so easy to do this, friends. If you are not a painter and you're afraid to try these kind of projects, I promise you this is so easy, and I'm just going to walk you through all of these steps. And it's so fun. Now I saw this as inspiration over on Etsy, and I thought, holy smokes, it's so expensive. And I'm going to show you all how easy it is to make this, and all it cost was $1 and some paint. You saw there I was making the manger. I made the little legs for the bed, and I rounded it, and then I added on some hay, and now I'm adding on the head and the body of baby Jesus' swaddling. Then over on Joseph, I made a little cap, and then brought it down his back, and then the same thing on Mary. A little cap, bring it down her back, and then add in some of that texture with different depths of paint. Now with baby Jesus, we're going to switch to that thin brush and circle around the body, the head, the swaddling, and then I'm coming back in with a small brush again and adding in some yellow. I really wanted it to have a pretty yellow in there. I thought that would be really cute. And then I'm going to come in with a darker color, and this looks a little scary at first, but you just keep playing with it. So you can see here that I'm just adding it in, coming back in with some tan, a little bit of white, and I bring back in some more tan and some more of the dark color, and I just keep playing with it until I get that layered look that I'm looking for. And then on his face, I went ahead and made it nice and tinted around the edges. And then I brought in a little bit more on his side. Now over on Mary, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to just continue to bring in those colors, play with it, have fun. Don't worry about making a mistake. These kind of projects are so perfect for trial and error and just playing with it. And if you don't like it, you just add in more of a lighter color or a darker color until you get the look that you want. So you can see here that I just kept playing with it, and now up at the top of Mary, I did add that little detail coming down the back of her head because it almost looks like a little ribbon coming down. Now up at the top, we're going to just simply add a star, and this is really easy. Go one way, go the other way, and then the center points, go one way, go the other way. And then once it's all dry, you can come back in and we're going to distress it a little bit. So I'm adding in just a little bit of polka dots to make it look like the night sky. And it's not going to show up very well at the end. I wish it does, because I add in a little bit of blue and it really looks so beautiful in person. So once it was all dry, I just dry brushed on some of this grayish blue color and it picked up all of the layers of paint that I put on with the white. And then at the bottom I'm coming in with almost a mustard yellow to make it look like hay at the bottom, and then I'm coming in with some brown, and I'm just distressing it around the sides. Now friends, we could totally stop here, and y'all know me. We could just lean it up against something, or we can go one step further and make it even more special. So I have these little stacking blocks from the Dollar Tree. I just line them up along the bottom, and then I'm going to take my staple gun and just staple those on and let them sit for a second. Then I'm going to take these really big sticks that I get at Walmart. They're like giant tongue depressor sticks. And then I'm just going to cut off the round part and put them up at the top of the house. And I'm going to put them right in the center so that we can put some supportive bars in there. And these are just the little craft stick dowels that you can get from the Dollar Tree. So I glued them down, and I'm just putting that right in there. And I'm going to do it also in the back side, and then I'm all going to add some more hot glue back there because it's okay if it's on the back side. It's a little bit thicker with the glue. And that's really going to secure the roof. And then for the sides, I added in the longer dowels to make it look like it's the walls. Now on the back side, we could leave it there, or we could go a little bit further. I took some of this buffalo check fabric that I had on hand because it's kind of the theme of this video. And now I'm going to take some more of those stacking blocks, and I'm going to glue them into place and then staple them all into place. At the bottom, you want to make sure you put something down there so it doesn't scratch your table. So some felt or some extra fabric. And then come back in with some of this raffia, glue it into the corners, distress the wood. I used a kind of a, I don't know, an orangey brown color with some white, and I really love how it turned out. For this DIY, we are going to be making an angel. We're going to use one of these signs from the Dollar Tree that's wood and one of these decor signs. Pop off the twine and the tag, and then I'm going to keep that Let It Snow for another DIY and another day. We're going to take that snowman, we're going to flip it over, and we're going to decide how tall we want this to be. I just went at the halfway point of the sign, and now I'm going to create this shape coming down at the sides, and I'm going to just trace those on as well. Now I love cutting these things apart because they snap really easy, they turn into whatever shape you want them to, and you're going to see that I'm even going to be able to do it with the wings. Now if you have arthritis, this might be a tricky one to do, but if your hands are strong enough, this is definitely something to try because it is so cool. You can get a really strong, sturdy piece to work off of, and you can create the coolest things with these signs other than just creating the rectangle shape. So don't be afraid to cut them up and tear them up and do something cool with them because you'll be surprised what you can make with them. So once I had the body and the wings cut out, I'm now going to take my white paint and I'm going to give it 2 coats of white paint. I always like to do 2 coats because I feel like the first one always sucks into whatever it is you're painting, and then the second one really seals that deal. So I'm going to take one of these wood rounds and I'm going to use that for the head of my angel, and I'm going to give that a coat of paint. And then on the back side, I'm going to go ahead and glue down the wings, take one of these stacking blocks, glue it. Now I'm sure you're thinking, wait, you're putting staples on the front side of your angel, but it's okay. I promise we're going to conceal it. No one's even going to even know that the staples are there. So we put in 6 just to make sure it's nice and sturdy and the wings never break. I'm going to add on another block for the head and do the same thing. Staple it all into place to make sure everything is nice and secure. And then down at the bottom, we're going to put on 3 more of those blocks so we can actually get it to stand up. Now I saw this angel on a Farmhouse Decor site and they were selling it for so much, and I thought, oh no way. Friends, I'm going to show you all how to make this just in case angels are your thing. I thought this was so pretty and I just knew right away we could make this really easy, and at this point I've only spent $1, maybe $1.20. So now I've stapled everything all on. I stapled it to the platform or that wood plaque, and then you saw how I came in with that wood putty that you can use to fill in holes, and I'm just letting it dry and then painting over it, and you no longer even see those staples. And the cool thing is it does create a texture, which is great, because you could wait and sand it and make it really smooth, but I actually wanted the texture because we're going to create this really pretty ombre effect on the angel's body, the gown. And then on the wings, we're going to take some of this blue paint, create some lines, just like it was on the inspiration. And I'm going to come back in with some gray. I also, before I started the gray, I distressed it a little bit with the blue. And then I'm coming back in and distressing it with a little bit of the gray to create some of this depth. And then I'm going to come back in with the white to tidy up the line, because I want the line to be nice and crisp right there. And then once I have all of that set and done, I'm then going to move on to some more of the fun painting and distressing part. Now, this is up to your imagination and how far you want to go, but I really think that the inspiration was so pretty. So I'm coming in with some of this grayish brown color, and I'm just having fun, just distressing it and making it look, you know, farmhouse. And then I'm going to take one of my favorite tools, which is a toothbrush when I'm painting. I love to tap it in. Make sure you don't have too much. Flick on some paint, and then I'm going to add on some of these little white dots just like it was in the inspiration. I'm going to link the inspiration down below so you all can see what it was that what I'm doing here. And then I'm just going to tidy up the base, add on some of these little stars. I'm taking 3 of them, and I'm just going to first put down a piece of twine right in the middle, folded it in half, add it on a blue star. I'm going to take the twine and bring it around the back. Now on the inspiration, they were like these gemmy looking stars, but I didn't have that. And then I added on some twine down the center and 3 more stars. I hope you felt inspired by these 10 projects today. And if you haven't already and you're thinking about it, I would love it if you clicked that button down below to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any other videos coming up throughout this crafting Christmas season. I'm going to recommend 4 videos here for you to check out. If you like this one, you might like these. And until the next episode, bye friends.